Welcome once again. I'm glad you could join me. It's actually been a while, but I'm glad I'm doing this again. I'll quickly take a short prayer. Father, we are grateful that you've given us another opportunity to hear from you. I ask, oh God, that you speak to our hearts expressly and that your name will be praised in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. And so quickly I'll be talking about the expected heart. Before I go into that, I'd like to do a recap of the last video. So this series of videos are um, each of the Bible passages from Genesis chapter 1. So right now I'm looking at Genesis chapter 4. And last time we talked about the fall of man, how man fell from the perfect um, life God made for man. They were deceived of the devil, and they couldn't really own up for their action and ask for mercy, and they kept giving excuses. So God asked them to leave the Garden of Eden. And now we're in Genesis chapter 4. I'm not going to read the passage, it's a long passage, so I recommend at your leisure, at your quiet time, your personal devotion, you find that time to read that passage, and God would minister His word to you directly. So I'm going to talk about the story. I'll just give a rundown of the story and then go straight to the message they expected at. So it happened in Genesis chapter 4. Adam and Eve, they started a family, they were living a whole new life, and probably they've put all that happened behind them. But sin was always going to resurface again. And so they had Cain, they had Abel. Abel was a shepherd, he took care of flocks, and then Cain was a cultivator of the earth, so he had farm produce and all of that. So it happened that they were to give sacrifices to God. Yes, man was not completely cut off from God, so they still had a fellowship, they still offered services to God, they still offered sacrifices to God. And it turned out that the sacrifice of Cain, as the Bible puts it, that God did not have regard for the sacrifice of Cain, but He accepted that of Abel. And um, it could be from the fact that Abel brought the first um, fruits, the fat cows and all of that. Or it could be because of the way he offered the sacrifice, or it could be from the heart with which he offered the sacrifice. The Bible didn't really say why this was preferred over the other. And Cain was really angry, he was upset that his sacrifice was not really accepted. And at that point, sin was already at the door knocking, because there's this tendency that the devil comes at the slightest provocation. Once you give a new loophole, he comes. So God was quick enough to come to Cain because he knows he was at the edge of sin. Yeah. So God came to Cain and was like, why are you angry? Um, if you did the right thing. Apparently, the right thing was not mentioned. If you did the right thing, I would have accepted your service. And so, some of us offer services to God without knowing what the right thing is. But that's not my focus today. I'm just going to be touching bits and pieces of how I get the ministration from this passage. So God spoke to Cain. He appealed to the conscience of Cain. If you did the right thing, I would have accepted your sacrifice. So at that point, it is expected that Cain would just go back, go down on his knees and ask God, oh God, teach me the right thing. Lord, what will you have me do? Tell me what you want me to do so that my sacrifice will be accepted unto you. But no, Cain didn't do that. And I discovered that whenever man falls short from the Genesis chapter 3 till this chapter now, God comes around. God still wanted the fellowship with man. And that will take us down later to how the redemption plan came about. Like I think fall of man at the Garden of Eden, God started thinking of ways to bring man back to himself, to restore that glory. But until he found the right time and the right person for that assignment, it could not be carried out. So back to our story, Cain allowed anger to step in. He was angry, his sacrifice wasn't accepted, and then jealousy crept in. He was jealous because his brother's sacrifice, Abel, was accepted or preferred over his. And then what did he do next? It transpired to murder, and he thought of how to do it. He brought in deceit. He told his brother, "Oh, let's go out and I don't know, have fun or something," and then he killed his brother. Now, I would say sin in service. What ordinarily would have been a service to God turned out to be sin. And Cain actually allowed it to degenerate to sin. It was supposed to be service. How did it turn out to be sin? How did it turn out to be murder? It was an anger that couldn't be controlled. It was a jealousy that couldn't be controlled, and it turned out to murder. Now, I'm going to point out a few things that happens in our churches today. We should be careful in our service to God before it turns out to sin. I think there is a thin line between the service and the sin, because you don't know when it happens. So let's take for instance, in our churches today, most persons offer services to God in form of music ministers, in form of ushers, in form of cleaning the church, or one thing or the other that people don't really get to see, but you are offering a service to God. Now there is a tendency for us to be swept over by or carried away by the service, and then we neglect the person we're offering the service to. Let's take for instance, when you start comparing yourself, like you're a music minister, or when it gets to you that you sing so well, and then when any other person sings, it's just all about the comparison. Oh, that person doesn't sing as much as I do. It becomes sin, because it is now out of competition. Or say when you're cleaning the church and then you start complaining why others don't do it. Everybody have their gifts and talents, and we should see service to God as a privilege, like you're actually opportune to be doing that, and not that you owe God a favor or you owe any man a favor. So I'm just pointing this out so that we'll be careful while offering our service to God, so it doesn't turn out to become sin. So now what happened? God shows up again. And then the thing is, God always shows up. What is he looking for? What is God really looking for? This is where the topic comes in. An expected heart. The expected heart, sorry. Now, it is not to be confused with the expectation of the righteous man will not be cut short, or what we are expecting from life. So, the expecting heart is different from the expected heart. I don't know if you get me. So now the expecting heart always has to do with we humans, what we expect out of life, what we expect from God. Oh God, do this for me. Oh God, do that for me. But the expected heart is the heart God expects from us. Now until we understand and give God the expected heart, maybe somehow our expecting heart will be fulfilled. Praise God. I don't really know if you get that, but it is the expected heart. God was expecting something from human after the fall of man. If I could just take us back to Genesis chapter 3. Why I go back and forth is because these stories are intertwined, so it's like a series that follows, series of events that follows. So when man sinned, like eating from the tree that wasn't expected of man to eat from, God showed up. And then God did not just cast them away instantly. There was a discussion that transpired. There was a conversation. God was asking questions, and he had a response he wanted to hear from man. He was expecting a response, a heart full of remorse. But unfortunately, he didn't get that. What did he get? Excuses. So it's not new anymore. It started from the very beginning. Man is always full of excuses. It's like it's in our DNA or something. Like we always need someone to blame for things that happens around us, even for our own sins or what we do wrong. We look for people to blame. Is either we're blaming it on our parents, or we're blaming it on society, or we're blaming it on the weather, or we're blaming it on friends. So there are every other person around us is doing wrong apart from us. If we could just pause for a moment and look down in our life and ask ourselves questions when things go wrong. What didn't I do right? Where did I go wrong? How can I retrace my step? How can I make it right? Those are the questions God expects us to ask ourselves when things go wrong. And don't get it twisted. Sometimes it might actually not be um, our making. It might actually be orchestrated of the devil. But what God wants is an expected heart, the expected heart, the heart that wants to go back to God. So it turned out God questioned Adam, what happened? And all he could say is, the woman you gave to me. Invariably, he's blaming God for the sin. Like, God, if you had not created woman, I don't think I would have committed this sin. And God was still not quick to anger. Bible says he's very slow to anger. He didn't react at that moment. He went to Eve, and probably maybe the woman would be more humble to acknowledge her fault and say, God, I'm sorry, since Adam didn't do that. But what happened? What was the response he got? The woman said, the serpent you created, the serpent you created, or the serpent deceived me. So there was always a chain reaction. There was always someone to blame, like I said. And then that was it. God had enough, and he said, okay, you are living the garden, this glory that I've created for you, you're going to live. And then he laid curses of man and the serpent and the woman. Now, I keep wondering, what if the response was different? What if Adam had said, oh God, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't know what came over me. I should have been man enough to tell my wife, no, God said we shouldn't eat from that. I should have been firm enough on my ground, on my faith in you. I'm so sorry, Lord. Will you be faithful enough to take me back? I actually think that was the response God was expecting. So he plays down again here. God came back to Cain after he had warned him that, Cain, be careful, sin is knocking at your door. If you would have done the right thing, I would have accepted your sacrifice. But Cain still hardened his heart and went ahead to do his bidding, and it resulted to murder. So now God came back again and asked the simple question, where is your brother? The all-knowing God is asking some human, mortal, where is your brother? And then Cain, in his fullness of wisdom, is asking God, am I my brother's guardian? Am I his keeper? I guess he must have forgotten that God sees and knows everything. What God was expecting then is, oh God, I did it. I'm sorry. A broken and a contrite heart. Now, the Bible says in Psalm 57 verse 51 verse 7. I guess, yeah, Psalm 51 verse 17, that the sacrifice God expects from us is a broken spirit. And then a broken and a contrite heart he will not despise. And again, have we really come to terms why God said David is the man after his own heart when he was to be anointed king by Saul? I think that's in the book of Samuel. Yeah, First Samuel chapter 13 verse 14. The Bible records that David is a man after God's heart. And now this man was not flawless. He wasn't blameless. He wasn't without sin. He fell time and time again. In fact, it got to a point where he had to kill a man to take his wife. He sent the man to the forefront of battle. But then again, this man is still the man after God's heart. Do you know why? Because David was a man that had a broken spirit. whenever he was convicted of evil, he always runs back to God. He always goes back to God, crying and pleading and asking for mercy. And I tell you, that spirit moves God. That broken and a contrite heart moves God. God is ever willing to restore. And if you look at the salvation plan, when God actually found someone, Jesus Christ, to come and pay the price of our sin, the plan was to convict you of sin. You need to be convicted that, oh, I've sinned. Now, how do you do good to a man that doesn't even know that he needs good? How do you do good to a man that wouldn't even accept that he needs help? How do you help such a man? So you need to come to accept that, oh, I have done wrong, oh, I have fallen, oh, I'm a man of unclean lips, oh, I need help from God. When you've been convicted, then you can actually come to terms with asking God for mercy. That's the plan. You get convicted of sin, you ask for mercy, salvation comes to you. So this is the expected heart. Don't get it twisted. God expects a broken, a contrite spirit day in and day out, because we need it as we journey through life. I'm sure if the response from Cain, from Adam, from Eve, if they had gotten it right with this response, I probably think that things would have actually been different. But no, we keep giving excuses. I think it's high time we give up excuses. Give up excuses. You should be responsible for your actions. Give up excuses of blaming the world and how things don't go right. It is time for you to rise up and act and take things by your hand. Do not blame your parents for not giving you the right education, or they didn't provide everything you needed in life. Oh yeah, you are responsible to do things. So give up the excuses. If you're in the habit of always finding fault in others, if you're in the habit of offering sacrifices to God and you're murmuring, then give it up. Give it up. That is not the heart God is expecting. God has a perfect plan for his children, and whenever we come back to him broken, it doesn't matter how much you've done, it doesn't matter the sin, the weight, the height, or the extent to which you have fallen. What really matters is the expected heart. And trust me, if we could give God the expected heart, then our expecting heart will be fulfilled. Everything that we were expecting from life, whatever we so desire, will be fulfilled. I pray that this word ministers to our hearts more, and that God will lead us aright in his ways and give us inspiration daily to his word. Because I tell you, there is a whole lot of goodness, a whole lot of blessings, a whole lot of promises that are embedded in God's word. And until we search out things for ourselves, it will not be fulfilled. I pray that God will receive that expected heart from us. I pray that we'll give up excuses. And I pray that we will not have sin in service. That our service to God will be blameless, will be pure, will be without sin. May the Lord bless his word today. And until I come your way next time, I pray that you remain blessed, remain focused, and have the expected heart. Thank you.